In this episode of What's Your Story with Mike Lindstrom and Scott Leese, we sit down with Billy Cundiff, former NFL Pro Bowler, 13-year career in the NFL, actually dear friend of mine, local here in Phoenix, Arizona, and one of our original guests of our podcast, and a family man. He's a wife and children here. Our kids actually go to school together in Phoenix, and we sit down with Billy and talk about the transition from being an NFL player to regular life to business. He talks about mentorship, how he had great mentorship all the while when he was in the NFL to transition into business. He talks about work-life balance. He talks about family values, very, very important, especially for a guy who lived on the road for 13 years. And then he takes us fast forward to where he is today as a managing director with Greystar, which is a real estate development company here in Arizona. So looking forward to you watching this episode. It was one of our favorite sit-downs, talking to a family man. Not everyone we bring into our podcast are family people. Billy is very much a family values, and you'll see that in this piece. Everyone, welcome back. Mike Lindstrom, the next episode, What's Your Story? My co-host, my friend, Scott Leese. So you know who we got on today, right?
I do.
You know a little bit about this guy?
I do, absolutely.
You know he played for one of my teams too. You know that, right?
I don't love that part.
I know you don't. I know. We'll talk about that offline. So I love when we get to have friends on. It's not just people who've done notable things, business people, people involved in the community, people who've done notable things, but having someone who come on as a friend, someone I get to see in my own community, someone who is local in Arizona. Without further ado, Billy Cundiff. Billy is, you may know him as an NFL kicker. That's not necessarily how I know him, even though I did know that when I first met him. I know him more as a father, as a husband. I know his wife, the family, but also as a business guy. So when we sat down and talked a couple of years ago, and we'll talk about that in a minute, a couple of years ago, the three of us, his wife and I, just sat and talked about his brand and what he's working on, and that's kind of where we developed our friendship. So I'm excited to have him on.
Yeah,
and thank you for letting me bring on one of the guys on a team that I actually
of course.
So without further ado, Billy, thanks for coming on today.
Appreciate you guys having me on.
So we start off this podcast with a simple question. We think it's simple, but it's your story. So give us whatever you want us to know at the very beginning. What's your story?
So I'm a kid that was born in Phoenix and somehow made my way back here. But life took me in a lot of different directions. So I have lived like coast to coast, essentially grew up in Southern California, spent most of my time, like my influential years in the Midwest. I'm just a kid who's enjoyed traveling. I enjoy kind of learning new things and been very fortunate to have a ton of life experiences, and now kind of in a almost like a second or third phase of life where being a dad, being in the business world, and just kind of trying to get better every day. That's really the mantra in our house.
We had a mutual friend of ours, Ian, though Peyton, our kids go to school together. He was on here this morning, and it's funny. He talked about 1.0, 2.0,
version
3.0 version. So that, since he brought it up, and we kind of talk about that ourselves in our story, what version are you on at this point?
Probably say 3, right? Because you kind of think you get this life growing up and you kind of go through. And for me, that was, my athletic career kind of blended into 1.0 and 2.0. And now as I transitioned out of football, and it's been 10 years since I played, this is kind of version 3.0, trying to figure out that how long I'll do this phase. And I'm sure there'll be probably at least one more version.
So 10, does it seem like 10 years to you?
When you have kids, yes, sometimes it can be like days. Yeah, days. What they say, days are long and the years are short.
Yeah. So mine are 17, 14. Yours are
17 and 15.
And your ages are
17, soon to be 18, 15, and 12.
So some relatability. Yeah.
Exactly.
So he has got that extra one though.
Yeah, he went for 3.
We talk about how in daddyhood in our world, we probably couldn't have handled more than 2. So anytime I meet a friend that has 3 or more, just the respect level goes up. I do want to ask that because anytime I talk to any athletes, that transition, I think I never played that level, not even close, but that transition out from that. What was it like for you? Because you hear a lot of not good stories where people become depressed or, addictions and things have happened, and we know people in common. How was that for you coming off of that?
Unique, because when I got into the NFL, my very first coach, Steve Hoffman, who my last son, Caleb, his middle name is Steven, they named him after Hoff. Guy was such a big influence in my life. He just drilled into my head, like, this is not a career. Like, this is a career is what you can do for 30 years. Like, nobody plays football for 30 years. So I make the Cowboys. Again, I'm 22 years old, and I've got a grown man telling me like, hey, you're going to have to figure out what you're going to do next. And I haven't even started.
Wow.
So for me, that's where my perspective was from the very beginning. So I was always trying to figure out what would I do when I'm done with football? And that's a tough conversation for a lot of guys. To your point, their identity is really wrapped up in being an athlete. And also, it's tough to think about life after football and really have that confidence, because you have to be a little naive and kind of feel like you're going to play forever. So you do have to like balance all these different mindsets that going to be an athlete and also thinking about life after.
If real quick on this, I know he's got a lot of questions too. Do you happen to know, because I know you're still tied with friends in the NFL, but it seems like the NFL has done a better job, and sports in general, teaching a 22-year-old or even an 18-year-old or 19-year-old, hey, listen, you're going to be in the NBA, you're going to play NHL. You need to be thinking about the money. They do it probably differently now than when you were 22. Sure. Do you see a big difference? Because I can't imagine you're getting coaching from the NFL like this gentleman's telling you.
Well, they had like integrated some of it, but it was just starting. And to your point, I think that as technology has changed our lives, it also, information flow is so much better. Like you had to go on generally a shared computer if you didn't have a laptop, right? Like it was kind of this weird thing.
Yeah, don't forget to log out before the next
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
And like personal website and all these kind of things. And it like there was just so much so many hurdles to kind of get to information.
Yeah.
But you were lucky to have that coach tell you that for sure. Yet you actually listened.
Yeah.
And so many people, I would imagine, heard something similar piece of feedback or advice and didn't listen. They tuned it out. So what was it that just kept you open to hearing that and then taking some course of action on that? Because that part is where a lot of people miss, I think,
It could have been how I got there. If you think about when I went to Drake University, it's non-scholarship football. So the chance of even getting the NFL are really low.
Yeah.
So I had a chip on my shoulder, and I also, when I got through training camp, I was still kind of in shock. I was still there. Like I played in front of 13,000 people. That's the biggest crowd I played in front of it.
Wow.
My first day at training camp was a walkthrough in the Alamo Dome, and we had 15,000 people there. Right? Okay, I had never played on TV. Hard Knocks was there my rookie season.
Oh, wow. What an introduction.
Okay.
Wow.
So like you had all of these factors. I'm just like trying to figure out how to survive. And I think I was pretty gracious, like that I'd kind of made it through. I'd beat out 3 guys just to make the team. So I make the team, I'm exhausted. I'd gone through off-season training camp, and I'm like, man, I've got a whole NFL season ahead of me. So my mindset was probably different than most guys, where big school kind of had a lot handed to you.
Yeah.
You kind of just roll in. And then also I just got along with Hoff. Like he's a true Renaissance man, like loves to read, loves to travel. He speaks Italian. He loves to cook.
Yeah.
Like all these things. Like, yeah, I really like this guy. Like this is not like a typical football guy. So I think I was drawn to him in that way.
Like this is the most interesting man in the world.
Right. Yeah.
Kind of vibe.
Well, especially for a 22-year-old. I can't imagine.
Yeah, totally.
I didn't have at 22. Other than my dad telling me his Skipisms, my dad being Skip. Other than that, I didn't have somebody at 22 in college for sure. That it was
even the travel piece is interesting, because when I was 22, I had gone nowhere ever.
Yeah.
And you traveled with Drake and whatnot, but all of a sudden you're traveling all over the place every other week, crisscrossing the country, and you've traveled more than almost anybody probably. Right. So I want to ask you a fun question. Give me a travel hack that the people out there listening can take action on and be like, hey,
he loves his travel hacks.
Okay, well,
I love this kind of stuff.
Travel hacks are also different, because as an adult now, right? Like, and out of football, my travel hacks are more about how can I compress my packing in order to only travel with one bag. Whereas like my travel hack when I was in the NFL would be checklists were huge to make sure I never forgot anything. And so like it was much more like a means to an end, like, hey, we're going to go play a game. Whereas now it's, I guess my only travel hack back then that still applies today is that if you're going to a restaurant, it's got to be over 1,000 reviews, preferably 200 is the lowest, and it's got to be over 4 stars. You have that, you're generally going to get a good experience, because you can throw away all the people that were mad about the service, and the food is really what drives it. So that's my Yelp kind of hack. But now it's traveling with like wool shirts. You guys probably got in like really deep on this one, where you can wear them for like 3 or 4 days and they don't stink.
That's right.
So that's like as an adult, we went to Italy and I packed like a small Patagonia bag and I was able to
Italy.
I was able to last 3 weeks, even though Nicole was not very
man.
happy because I looked the same in almost every picture.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? But hey, come on, man. His wife's obviously, she's a good marketer, brander on social media. She's awesome. That's how they think. I mean, wives think about that stuff that maybe we're sitting there thinking about comfort and packing, and they're thinking about what's going to look like in front of the Vatican.
Exactly right. When it was function and then form first and foremost. But that would be, yeah. So the Yelp thing, that was from my days playing. That was, I think, as we went to different cities, not knowing people, trying to ask kind of where should we eat. That generally steered me in the right direction every time.
I've never even done that one. No. That's a good one.
No,
I'm gonna rip that. I'm not even conscious to that. When I go on a route, I usually go because I go for word of mouth. See, I would call Billy and go, Billy, I'm going to be in Tulsa. I know you used to live there or whatever. Where should I go?
Yeah.
That's how
end of discussion.
I'm not even going to look at the reviews. So you're right, though. But if I'm going to go online,
you don't necessarily have that network at 22 years.
Yeah, that's good.
Old.
Right.
Yeah.
Just to develop, like Yelp hadn't really started. So this was really kind of, I played football from 2002 and to 2006. And I was out of football in 07, 08. And really Yelp had come around kind of like right around 2010-ish. This was like the second half of my career where, again, I was oftentimes away from my family. Family started to stay here as the kids got a little bit older. So I was always trying to figure out ways to explore cities.
And I know family's huge deal. Way up there, right? Faith family. How was that for you? Because I know I have some athlete friends that treat it differently. Hey, I travel, they don't, whatever. How did you all do it? I mean, because you were at the younger phases of the kids' lives, but being gone and doing all that stuff. How did you manage that at that time?
It was tough. We also have to. It was a blessing because when I started my career, I was still trying to convince Nicole that we should be together. Right? Like it was like, hey, you should move to Dallas. This would be amazing. Like, hey, if you move here, we can get engaged. Like all these things that you say as a 22-year-old male, like, if you move here, like I'll let you marry me, kind of like almost like
I was
all fall into place.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
So it was, so by the end of my career, I'm looking back saying, wow, we got 3 kids. It's crazy. Like I started out just trying to convince this girl she should move to Dallas and then we can possibly get married. So I thought it was a great problem, but also at the end, we had just different family dynamics. My wife's mother had passed away. And so once I got into Cleveland, this was in 2013, Chloe's in school. And so we just had them stay here. And that's probably what shortened my career at the end. I probably left a year or two and I was okay with it because those were probably my years. Family, I played enough. Family was tough being gone the entire season.
It gets more disruptive every year as your kids get older, right?
Bigger milestones, things of that nature, and then they don't quite understand. But again, those were like stuff that we navigated. I felt like pretty well, and I think
that's interesting. I wasn't keen to that. I mean, you hear about it and stuff like that until Andre Ethier, who we have mutual friends with, who played for the Dodgers for years. Our kids go to school together, and I asked him when we became friends. You just talk about life. What was it? And he said, "Man, kids are there. I'm in that off season. In my head, I'm thinking ahead. I got training." He said he was literally at the gym in the off season, thinking about the next life and his family. And that's when he picked up the phone and called his agent, said, "I'm done." And his agent's like, "Are you kidding? Are you crazy? Like, no, you're underneath here." But the influence of family, you don't hear that a lot. It's not sexy. You're like, "Oh, I'm going to retire." It's always because of a concussion or it's something that forces it. So when people like you or Andre have that conscious choice and say, "You know what, my life's a little different right now," that's just not normal.
Yeah, but I also had a plan and all these kind of things. So I felt like because I handled my career properly, though it was pretty scary, I was able to kind of take a right, get and exit the stage. And I feel like even though it was a little uncomfortable because I felt like maybe I'd leave in a year or two out there, that was okay because I was going to do what's best for my family. And I was pretty excited about the possibilities of transitioning and not always being like Billy Cundiff, a football player. I know there one of more aspects of my life to let people know about.
Did you go right into the business that you're in now, right after NFL?
So I did grad school for a year. What's crazy is I actually played one game during grad school.
Okay.
Right. And I had 8 tryouts that season. So I was, again, trying to branch out and get away, and the game was still kind of pulling me back in. And I laid it out.
One of those Godfather moments.
Exactly. Like it pulls you back in. But Nicole and I sat down. I said, look, if I can be an associate level, like if I can make X amount of money, if I can be for this company, then if I have that job offer, then I will stop playing football. And sure enough, like that company gave me that salary level at that job position, and I was able to quickly transition.
You still pretty close with all those guys that kind of brought you in?
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I see, actually, one guy I work with at Heinz, his son now is a freshman at Brophy as well. So
Okay.
Summer.
Oh, I didn't realize that was one of the original mentors or somebody who saw you in your second chapter. So one little passion I have, I don't talk about this very often, but is when I think about athletes in general, there's certain athletes I just have high regard for. Kickers is one of them. And kickers. I mean, I don't care what level you are. We talked about baseball, being a failure sport.
Yep.
You're going to get up there, bat 250, 7.5, you're going to fail. Kicking. I guess your percentage was around 76.1, 76.5 of make rate, whatever it was in the NFL. Longest field goal, I believe, was 56 yards. I guess at that time, we'll talk about that in a minute. But the mindset of a kicker, like, you got to step this into that mind. Like, how did you get to that in your life? Because there's so many other things. You could have just been, I'm going to be a point guard, or I'm going to be a wide receiver or a cornerback. I think it's unique. It's just something that you don't see very often. Tell us a little bit about that story and how it started, and then kind of what's different about it.
Yeah, to be very clear, I did not want to be a kicker growing up. Like it wasn't like the thing that like really drove me. It wasn't like a passion. I think I just innately had more natural ability and eventually kind of went into that. But growing up, my brother, he was a quarterback and a kicker. He played basketball. He high jumped, and he played soccer. He's 4 years older than me, so I want to be a quarterback and a kicker and play basketball and play soccer. So literally just trying to chase him, and any record he had, I wanted to beat. He high jumped 6'6" and a quarter. I jumped 6'7" my senior year. Like everything he did, he won a state championship his senior year. I won a state championship my sophomore and senior year.
Wow.
I always wanted like one more than him. Just
one up him.
Always got like a little brother.
Yeah.
I was that annoying little brother. He would bring me to the park. And again, being 4 years younger, he's in high school. I mean, it's a big size difference. And he would always pick me first. And the thing was, I was not allowed to shoot. I brought the ball down and I passed it to him.
Just the rock.
Exactly. So I was always a good point guard just because of what he did for me. So I was very grateful that I had somebody I could look up to and kind of chase. That helped me out. And then when I got to college, I realized that I actually walked onto the Drake basketball team and played football. So I played football and basketball for 3 years at Drake. And I just wasn't good enough to be a quarterback at Drake. They were just much better than I was. I was a really good high school player, and I don't think anybody that plays basketball really realizes until you actually meet the next level how big that jump is from high school to college. And Drake was not good. And we had great basketball players that we just couldn't get things going as a team. But there were dudes that were way better than all our best guys. And I got a chance to play against some guys that played in the NBA. And I don't think people understand that jump.
Yeah.
So it's like eventually I just had to find something that I could keep doing. And kicking, Drake didn't have a kicker going into the freshman year. That's the reason why I ended up coming over from the basketball team. And I won the job. I was pretty bad. I was 8 of 18, but I was all conference because the conference is so bad.
You were 8 of 18 and all conference. All conference.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I didn't know that.
That's got to be a record somewhere.
It is.
But again, this is 1998, and information flow isn't really out there. Like you can't pull things up and learn it as fast as you can today. So then, if you didn't have somebody that was in your area to teach you, and I didn't have that, then you kind of just figured it out on your own.
Wow.
And then I figured it out on my own in the field. By my junior year, I was an All-American, and so life started taking me in that kicking direction. And the thing I loved about it the most, kind of circle back to your question, is I loved the pressure aspect. Because I was a quarterback. I was a point guard. I always wanted the ball in my hand. I wanted to do the things. And look, if I can't be a point guard, I can't be a quarterback, well, then being a kicker is just as good in the sense that I got all that pressure right on you. So much fun. It's like, that's probably what I miss the most of football is that adrenaline.
Because you can't replicate that moment. There's not the same thing necessarily. If you're like trying to close a real estate deal and it's like at the 1 yard line of the real estate deal, it's not the same.
It's no metaphor at all.
There's no Super Bowl level equivalent of real estate deals. I don't think.
In the business world, like, hey, I'm sick. Let's pick this up tomorrow. Or let's reschedule this meeting, or you can get an extension on a deadline. There is none of that. In football, college, high school, college, or pro, the game's scheduled, the game is played. And so you have to show up. And there's something that's unique about that aspect where it all kind of just creates this little pressure cooker.
you have to have a certain amount of poise and perspective to survive as long as you did in that pressure cooker kind of role, right? How do you talk to your kids about that aspect and element of it as they go about their own, athletic career and you,
or life in general?
Yeah. And in theory, you want to guide them, not necessarily push them like too hard, too soft. Like my son told me, I asked him a couple weeks ago, hey, do you think I pushed you, too hard towards soccer or whatnot? He's like, no, I don't think you pushed me hard enough. And I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Right. I'm just wondering, how do you pass down that kind of mindset? Because that's one of the things that always impressed me with all kickers that I know or pay attention to, but you and some of the interviews and post-game appearances that you had, it's like you were poised. You handled everybody's, pot shots, or you knew what they were doing. Gotcha. We all know what they're doing,
for sure.
Right?
Looking for that one-liner.
But that part and the ability to impress that upon your children, I think, is so important. And I'm always keen to understand how elite performers are passing that down the right way.
Good question.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. The first thing is that my daughter's a goalkeeper. And
I'm a soccer guy, so
again, a very pressure filled
100%
position.
That's another kicker and field goal place or goalies. That's another one. That's
exactly. So my wife has been
same mindset.
She's just losing her mind sometimes. Like, you guys are all running to the fire. But for the first thing I tell my kids is that, listen, this cannot be my dream. It's got to be yours. So if you want to do this, I think it's amazing. I'm going to support you, but I don't need this. Like, I'm not going to live vicariously through you. I'm going to be supporting you. And then the second thing is always like, those who are the most successful are going to be intrinsically motivated. Again, because this can't be my dream, it's got to be yours. Yeah. That's going to be there. Then after that, what I try to impress is that what you're doing is so much fun. Like, it's amazing. And they probably get sick of me saying this. Yeah. Like, guys, like, I miss this. My daughter's going out for a game, huge game. She's a little nervous, like, oh,
yeah.
I wish trade me the jersey.
I miss it so much. I got into refereeing now just so I could be close to it.
Exactly. Right. And so if you reframe it, like, pressure is a privilege. And if that mindset shifts, then all of a sudden they're excited to go out and do that. And then I also try to teach them that you got to be your own best friend. So I had a guy that later in my career I worked with, who's a sports psychologist. He helped start the sports psychology department at West Point. So Colonel Choka, amazing, very like a military guy. And he would teach me kind of the technical things about how to breathe and the way your thoughts really control a lot of your actions. And so I've tried to impress that kind of stuff, writing goals out, putting it on their mirror so they see it every day, the internal monologue that you got going on, talking to yourself, being your own best friend. Like, if you can continue to have positive conversations, you can shift the way you perform. And I would listen to this script it was all my goals with some some action statements and then some affirmations afterwards. And I would listen to it all the time. And this is later in my career. So you can see in my career from roughly 2009 to 2015, if you look at my percentages, dramatically different than they were early in my career.
So you can follow the performance arc.
You can follow it. And it was because of Colonel Choka, but I would listen to this affirmation script. And I remember going out for a game winner versus Buffalo. And my thing was,
what's going to hurt?
He's a Buffalo guy.
Well, my last game,
go ahead.
My last game was with Buffalo. So we've always got like a soft spot in our house for the Bills. I would always tell myself I'm cool, calm, and collected. Okay, that would try to be my mantra. Like, that way, no matter what, I've got it. And I'm getting ready to walk out on the field, and without even thinking, I say to myself, I'm cool, calm. I like had to stop from it. I was like, affirmation script is like in there.
Yeah.
And so I just went out there, went through my paces and hit the game winner. But that just shows the power of like programming your thoughts. And so that's some of the things I'm trying to teach my kids.
And are they receptive to it when it comes from you, or are they like, whatever, Dad? The other person says it, and now they pay attention.
It's a good point, because I think they can take me in like microdoses.
Yes.
Right. But we definitely have hooked them up with a mental coach. And so I talk with that coach a lot. And so we're constantly bouncing things off of each other. And then a message is coming from somebody else. So
yeah,
it's tough
a bit of both
for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always like
That's
that.
not.
Though. I think that's normal for a kid. I mean, you can tell them what things exactly, like public speaking.
It is, but
Listen to me.
it normalizes some parental frustration. It's like,
Sure.
Yeah.
oh, Billy struggles with that also.
Yeah.
Mike struggles with that too. It's not just me.
But the doses thing is important, though. I think
Yes.
that's an important thing to keep
Yeah.
in mind. Because I think sometimes especially when you're passionate about, like, she's a senior this year.
Gonna be a senior.
So,
Or she's
hey,
a senior. School start.
being recruited, games on the line, she's great. You don't want her to win, and everything go to the next level. But then you stop and think, well, am I pushing too hard? Am I pulling back? But it's just stopping and thinking, okay, here it is. It's the dose.
Yeah.
Where's the dose start and stop?
Yeah.
Much easier said than done.
Yeah.
Much easier.
Oh, I agree. So yeah, no, you brought up kickers, but also goalies. That's another one that's up there. Whether it's hockey goalie, that fascinates me.
Yep.
Soccer for sure, especially when it comes to PKs. I know some people hate the concept of PKs in general, but that's pressure, man.
Yeah, it is.
It's on the line. So tell me a little bit about the transition from the kicking mindset to business. I mean, how do you? It's hard to go out every day and line it up, right, and go through the steps. But how do you do it? How do you translate that into the business world?
I wanted to be a high school basketball coach and a history teacher. That was like what I went to Drake for. So the way I've transitioned to the business world is really thinking that now I'm into more of my coaching phase than my playing phase. The things that you learn as a player still apply. Like you've got to, make a plan, work the plan, and then you got to find a way every day to bring your best to whatever it is that you're doing. Those are two concepts that every athlete that's successful understands. But to your point, you can't really, in the business world, it's not game day every day. It's not practice. And in fact, the thing I struggle with early on is really that cadence. There's not a cadence in the business world.
Yeah.
Right. I like development, which is what I do now because it's more project based. So there is a life cycle. So it does create a little bit, but a 5-year life cycle is not the same as a 10-season football season.
Yeah.
Or 10-game football season. So there is like ways that I've tried to adapt my mindset to what I'm doing. But the reason why I got drawn to development is that it's very stressful. Honestly, back to my thing before, looking for pressure situations.
Yeah.
When I did internships in my off season at CBRE, I got a chance to experience all things across the real estate world, from property management to analytics to every different asset class. Where you're selling it, you're developing it, being a broker, you're selling it, and I started to figure out that I think development was the most stressful because there are so many things that were out of your control. There's also so much creativity involved. So it was my chance to really take all that I'd learned all the way up to that point and then apply it. And then again, take that rationale of being a coach, building a team, and then creating something bigger than myself. Those are all what drew me to what I'm doing now.
Well, we talk a lot about self-talk, and you talk about the monologue, and I love that he hit monologue because people always say, oh, it's a dialogue. Well, dialogue between two people, that's not true, even though you feel like it's two people in your head sometimes. So what are some of the things in business world now that you tell yourself? Like calm, cool, and collected is one thing. Maybe you do say that to this day, but what are some of the reframes you do on yourself to keep that mindset strong for you, whether it's as a parent, as a husband, in your faith, just to keep your mind right in this chapter of your life?
Different in the sense that I read a lot more like Robert Greene, like in the business world, whereas my faith and my family, it's more like the things I'm reading and trying to ingest come from a much different place, right? Like I oftentimes tell myself like, this isn't personal, right? Or like trying to understand when someone says something like, what's the motivation here? Like really trying to take a step back as much as I can. And I probably should do that honestly more in my family and my wife.
Yeah.
Like to not let it be so personal.
We all can. Trust
Guilty.
me, I get it. Guilty.
Exactly. So I think in my reframes from a business perspective is really taking back, say, like, am I asking more questions? Like, do I truly understand the situation here? Because there's always that instinct as an athlete to just act. And I think it's very much a male thing as well. Like I want to solve the problem. And thinking also in the business world, I've tried to take a step back, say it's not so much problem solution, it's kind of like problem and then there's trade-offs. And so I'm trying to think through the trade-offs that go with like this thing we're going to do. So I'm always like trying to, as quickly as I can, take a step back in any kind of conversation and understand more.
I got one real quick one to follow up and then you hit you. So we talk about beliefs drive behaviors. So one of the beliefs I have is there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. Ian was on here and he said, no, failure is just a frequency, right? That's his belief. So And that's just our two beliefs comparing each other about failure. What are some of the beliefs that you have about success or failure or mindset that have just now it's not just self-talk, it's just a belief you have about life?
Yeah, look, as human beings, unfortunately, we remember our failures much more than we do our successes. Both can be great teachers. I know that when you fail, if you've taken the right way, I think obviously you learn so much more. Real estate's been really hard for the last probably almost 36 months, and we're constantly trying to apply these lessons learned quicker. We've got a guy on our team used to be an F-35 pilot.
Wow.
So they talk about having hot washes, which are really just how can you make a plan, work the plan, and then go back and analyze how you did against what you're supposed to do. Creating a tighter and tighter feedback loop so you can apply these lessons quickly. For me, I think that's something that I'm constantly trying to do, but it's something you don't really realize you do when you're younger, right? Like you go out and play a game and you lost, and then you're like, well, initially until you're taught better, it's like, well, the refs got us.
It's everybody else's fault.
Everybody else's fault.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
If this, if only that.
Exactly. And our high school football coach had, who's a legend, he coached for over 30 years. Kurt Platz was one of the best. He had over a 90% winning percentage in his career.
Wow.
Won 12 or 13 state championships. They had a streak when I was a freshman. We had made the state semifinals or better in football 18 straight years.
Oh, it's incredible.
We didn't make playoffs my freshman year. It was huge. Come back the next year, we won a state title. Junior year, lost in semifinals. Senior year, won. But he would always say, in order to maintain perspective, there's 1 billion people in China that didn't care about anything that happened tonight. Right? So he was like,
I gotta use that one.
It's so true, though.
It's so true. And so then he would before we're getting in there, it's like, hey, you need to, it was right around like working hard, knowing what to do, working hard, and then let the chips fall where they may. And then if it just didn't work out, then we're just going to move on. And so apply lessons learned, move on. And I think I've tried to do that. That helped me out as I got older.
Is it hard to be around colleagues who don't have necessarily that same level of
experience, life experience?
Yeah, but just like drive or competitiveness, or they don't want that pressurized situation. Where I imagine you had 53 plus guys and staff on the team who all kind of wanted to be in that pressurized situation, and you work
necessarily, though.
Not necessarily.
Not every team. I think that the common misconception is that the great teams in any pro sport, they do have the majority of individuals are made up that way. But you can get to the bottom part of any league, and you're going to find a bunch of guys that really don't care, and they're there because they're really good. I got lucky in the business world. I've been able to recruit my team. So I have purposely sought out people.
You've got an eye for that.
Exactly, for what they bring to the table.
Yeah.
We run into that because we have a lot of project management. When you're in project management, you're bringing in other stakeholders, and that's when you have an architect. The architect is just built different. You look at the personality profile.
Yep.
They're going to be, now they may be competitive in their way. So I'm trying to draw that out. Hey, what gets them going? How can we integrate that into the team? Same thing with a contractor.
Yeah. Go
to a job site. They don't communicate the same way. They're built differently, but maybe we can all get alignment on what the end goal is, and that's what's really driving them. So it is, to your point, it's tough.
So you've become super into design and real estate projects and all this stuff. And as a Bills fan, I've been paying a lot of attention to the design of the new stadium. Right?
It literally has, man.
I have. My family's from Niagara Falls, Buffalo, New York, and we're just built different a little bit different. So the way they constructed that stadium, allegedly, we'll see, blocks all the wind out. No wind is getting in. I don't know if you know this.
I know this.
They're talking about this. So my question was, do you find yourself looking at stadiums or buildings or facilities as you're driving around or sport, and you think, oh, what if we did this? What if we did that? And if there is any of those things, what are some of the kind of cutting edge, off the wall ideas that are out there floating around in your head of we could fix up ASU Stadium, we could fix up Cardinal Stadium. If I was in charge of designing this.
I appreciate the question. I'm not good at telling, when it comes to telling someone hey, this could solve that, because my design mind isn't really there, if that makes sense. My son is very good at drawing. My daughter is very artistic as well. Nicole can paint. I can do stick figures. I got into photography to try to get like some artistic talent expressed in some way. But like when I look at things, back to your question about like football, I always see the wind. Like so you're talking about no wind. I would walk the field.
Yeah.
A guy teach me early on, take a piece of pre-wrap, which is the stuff you put on before you put athletic tape.
Yep.
And I would draw out a long string and I would like hold it on the ground, like waist level on the field. So you could actually feel how the wind was flowing on the field relative to what was going on the flags. And so now anywhere I go, like I'm in Vegas all the time, like, man, it's really windy here. So I am thinking about, we should probably think about the doors here. Like they slam shut all the time or stuff like that. I'm more into like the art side. So trying to find ways to get public art because we build sometimes pretty commodity product and how can we make something a little more unique?
Yeah.
And you see that more in Europe when you travel, you see like, well, these buildings are all really flat, but it has this way of integrating some art. And like, you don't really realize that it's the same building repeated for like 6 blocks. Because we do that here in the United States. Like, wow, that looks really basic. Things are a little tighter, put some art in certain places, streetscapes kind of dressed up and it feels much more comfortable. So I'm always trying to like take the things I see elsewhere and apply it in.
That's a great story about the pre-wrap.
Yeah,
I haven't thought about pre-wrap since
I
1995 or 6 when I was playing soccer. I remember that.
Or the wind. I never think about the wind. I mean, I can imagine if you're a kicker.
I think about the wind because Billy probably knows obviously better than any of us, but Buffalo Stadium
So windy.
is like the windiest stadium that there is.
Ask Norwood he would know.
This was in a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Much different.
But so for Buffalo to purposely consider how do we block the wind entirely?
I mean, it's
Is it
an
interesting?
advantage when you're in the playoffs to
Yeah.
be what they have currently. So you're really kind of leveling the playing field. So now your roster's got to be really good top to bottom because now you're saying we're just going to do a heavyweight straight up.
Yeah.
We're gonna brawl, right? The one thing about the wind, one other story. When I was in Baltimore, they had the Baltimore PD sniper division was always on the sidelines, and I remember asking the guys like, "Hey, like, how do you guys count for wind?" So, well, if you look at the flag, you look at the angle of the flag, and you divide it by 4, that'll give you the wind speed.
And they told you that. That's how you learn that.
That's how they quickly
Wait, say that one more time. I got to process.
angle of the flag.
Yeah.
So if it's like fully at,
90 degrees.
then you divide that by 4, you got about a 20 to 25 mile per hour wind.
Oh.
They knew that anything over, it was like 12 or 15 miles an hour was going to change the trajectory of their shot based off of all their math. For me, I knew that if I looked at it and said anything, that was over 20 miles an hour meant that from 40 yards and back, the ball flight was going to be impacted. Oh. That was like a quick thing that I learned. Trying to teach that to somebody who's younger, their mind's like,
yeah. That's how my brain is.
Yeah, to double check.
I'm trying to do math right now.
I have a couple quick takes because I know we're wrapping up. Most competitive player you ever played with? Like competitive, just, oh my gosh, this guy was competitive at every turn.
Yeah, you're probably looking at two ends of the spectrum. You got like an Emmitt Smith. I got to play with him who, broke the rushing record. He was competitive in all things, whether it was golf, dominoes, business.
Wow.
And then you've got like the Ray Lewis of the world. Like he's, very much like famous for all of his speeches and how over the top he was, and he get riled up and we had
loud competitor, quiet competitor.
Yeah, exactly. Like both ends of the spectrum there. I think that was probably 2 guys I feel super blessed to have played with.
Trash talking on the other side. You're going to line it up. You got someone on the other side. I'm sure Ray Lewis had to be there, but he was on your team.
Yeah.
So who was trash talking you the most? The one that stood out, you're like, I know this guy's known for it, but this guy definitely is a trash talker.
Yeah. See, I didn't really pay attention when I was playing. I was just like so
locked in.
I don't want to like make it sound like, I didn't hear anybody. But I would say I knew Suggs. I played with him. Like he was just like nonstop all game. I would like sit off the edge, be like, man, like that guy is just still going. Probably one of the better athletes I played with as well. I mean, he was a beast. So he was constantly going, and I'm trying to think about it.
Suggs was at ASU when I was in grad school at ASU. Suggs and Heap. Those were the two.
And so I played with both those guys.
Yeah.
Great dudes.
Books. Favorite reads all time? Could be one you're reading now, but one you take away. It's kind of like, this is a Billy book. Like he's kind of known for this. It's a book he'd recommend.
Probably, well, there's Viktor Frankl.
That's what you're reading. Gotta have that.
I think I had Luke read that this summer. I've had Chloe read it. So it's the Undoing Project.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Lewis.
Yeah.
That was really good because it kind of shows you how really not very good at decision making. I think that one's really good. And I'd say probably The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe for like
Oh my God.
book.
Oh yeah.
That was
I
probably
read all of those Chronicle of Narnia books.
Oh yeah. I could rush those things.
Oh yeah.
So Viktor Frankl, that's my number one. Man Search for Me.
I just read that
number one
last year for the first time.
I gift that book to clients and friends with a handwritten note more than any book ever. I mean, I'd love to be able to give the Bible, but you know how people, you can't be religious with, certain folks, but you keep it right down the middle. Viktor Frankl keeps it right down the middle. I mean, you can't go wrong. He tells a story of what it was like to be in that situation. That's horrible. And then what he took away, and the man's search for me. And Scott and I talk about this a lot. One of my big quotes is nothing in life means anything except for the meaning you give it. I mean, it's one of our quotes and beliefs that you get from the book. So any final thoughts on things you're working on? But we always want to let you brag a little bit. Like tell us about the company, projects are coming up. I know you're obviously a Phoenician, maybe things that you want to share here that we'll share with our group.
I appreciate that. Like for us, we've had tremendous growth since I've been with the company for the last, it's almost 6 years now. So for me at this moment, we're trying to figure out, this for us would be, again, third generation of deals. So it's funny, my career's in the kind of third iteration. These are third gen deals. So we're excited about what's out there on the horizon. At the same time, I'd be remiss if I didn't say I was my daughter's recruiting coordinator. So we got her a place where she's committed to play soccer at Wofford.
Oh, do we know that?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
She's going to go play soccer at Wofford. And then my middle guy, he's starting high school, so it's been fun, kind of turned into his caddy for his, as he's kicking and punting, but he's also playing linebacker and wide receiver. My wife's team mom, and then my little guy trying to figure out, we got him into rowing now. So I'm just I'm having a fun time trying to find a way to fit all that into 24 hours. So living a very unsustainable life, trying to make it a little more sustainable. I think that's probably what I got going on.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, when I tried to describe to my wife, Monica, about, because they see each other at different things, but they don't know each other. And I said, it's like, just think team mom. That's all I'm going to tell you. Just team mom. That is so her in every way, shape, and form.
Yeah, she's amazing. She loves to run to the fire. So she's cheering a DFA ball. She's a team mom. And I've told her my only complaint is and I think that this is probably going to be our life probably until we're completely retired and they tell us to stop being involved, is that she's got to find a way just to process the stress that goes, because she cares too much.
Yeah.
So she internalizes it. If she can find a way to just be able to not have that stress moment, the things that she's going to get herself into are going to be so much fun for the next 30 or 40 years. I got
to make sure, Monica, we got to make sure we make that connection. Absolutely. I talk about you guys all the time. A couple times I've missed you at church from far away, but I want to make sure that the two of them connect, because Monica's going to be on a few committees next year when Rhett's a senior. Yep. So they're going to be interacting a lot over the next 4 or 5 years. Man, first of all, thanks so much for taking, I know you're a super busy guy, just to take 45 minutes out of your day to come visit with us and meet your new friend, Scott, my old school friend. So you and I will see each other a lot more, but to be able to see like this it's really nice, because it's always in passing. Hey man, how's it going? How's Luke? But to just sit down and talk for 45 minutes, got to do it more often. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so we're gonna wrap up. So Scott, what do you think about that? Huh?
I'm still trying to reconcile the Cowboys Bills.
I think you're still stuck on the wind and the Bills thing, man. We got to talk about that all the time. I think that's what's really going on. So this is our next wrap up. We look forward to seeing you guys the next time. Thanks for coming, Mike Lindstrom, Scott Leese. What's your story? We'll see you next time.